Welcome back to another episode of Terp Trends, the podcast where we dive deep into the cannabis industry and explore the art, science, and stories behind the plant we love. Today we are thrilled to have a very special guest joining us, Mikey Morris, better known in the cannabis world as MikeyDabSit, Mikey Washes It. Mikey is a South Carolina native with an incredible journey that took him from his roots in the Southeast to the thriving cannabis scene of Colorado. As the processor for Good Trees, a Colorado-based company making waves with their solventless products, Mikey has cemented himself as a passionate advocate for purity and innovation in the cannabis extraction. In this episode, we're going to get to know the man behind the press. We'll talk about his upbringing in South Carolina, his first encounters with cannabis, the love for solventless extraction that shaped his career, and the challenges he overcame on his way to teaming up with Good Trees. This is Terp Trends. Let's dive in.
Cool, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have a great episode.
Yeah, let me know. So, are you bringing my Puffco?
Yeah, that's what I'm loading up right now.
I figured the torch might be a thing if I do it constantly.
Yeah. I know, dude. I feel like ever since the freaking all these e-vapes came out, I find myself using the torch less and few experiences. But sometimes you got to pay homage to the roots. And
Yeah, dude, nothing hits like a like a good dab off a banger, you know?
Yeah.
But the convenience of Puffcos and e-rigs nowadays are just crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of wild how like the kids nowadays growing up in the scene, like how great they have it. 'Cause we used to have to sneak around, dude. Now they have carts and stuff, dude. It's so funny to me. I'm just like, man, you guys are so spoiled these days.
That's what I'm saying. I got this 1 gram rosin cart I'm trying out now, and just
Nice.
the ability to be like, you know, just rip it, you know, whereas before it's like you got to go stand somewhere, fucking paper in your hand, grinding seeded weed into it, and smelling like it was the worst part. Everybody's dousing themselves in osium like it's fucking cologne.
Yeah. So there's this brand that's I want to say they're a little more East Coast. They're like called No Smell Spray or something like that. It's a woman-owned company, and it works almost as good as osium, but everything's all natural. So obviously osium like takes that really out of it just for the chemicals they're able to use, but like whatever they use naturally in that spray. I'll send you the link after this. It's really cool, and the lady's really cool.
I
So it's
fuck with
always
it.
good.
I'll definitely support.
Yeah, because you know, you spray your car or anywhere you freaking smoke with osium, dude. Like you don't want to breathe that stuff in probably for like an hour when it's around. Like I don't know, it's
My thing is
toxic.
like I go to a lot of like business meetings where I shouldn't smell like weed, you know, I shouldn't smell like a blunt. Dabs are fine, but I always have somebody around me who's smoking a blunt.
Yep.
And like my hair will smell like it, or my clothes, or my hoodie, or something. You're like, dang, dude, didn't mean to do that.
Yep. I know exactly how which is kind of weird because most of the business meetings you're probably going to these days revolve around cannabis, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yes. So it's funny to like still have to worry about smelling like cannabis for a cannabis meeting.
Bro, half the people that don't smoke in this industry like own the industry. You know what I
I know,
mean?
man.
So
Yep. Same here in PA. I mean, you got to be real careful of what you're saying in the workspace, who's around. Like that's what blew my mind starting the program here is like how many people really aren't in the culture of cannabis, and then you really got to like be careful around it, which is funny. It's funny.
right.
It's kind of weird. But anyway, what you got?
This is BMFT times Albert's heart. We call it Sakura.
Sakura.
A little cherry blossom.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah,
That's
Jack's
real
a
dope.
fan, bro. He makes some awesome work.
Yeah, that's sick. Well, thanks for joining us. Episode today, man. We got MikeyDabSit from Colorado coming in hot with a nice little dab. Now, are you dabbing on any of the new stuff, the Good
Yeah, this
Trees,
is
or?
the biscotti chunks from Good Trees.
Nice, dude. Shout out Good Trees, the new venture of yours.
Yeah, shout out to Irva too, the starting material.
That's sick. That's
So
sick.
the
So
model
before,
right now.
no, keep going with it. Go with
Yeah,
it.
the model right now is just sourcing from good growers, until like we can bring our garden to a state where I'm 100% comfortable with single sourcing from it. The issue right now is we're only medical at the source where Good Trees like is home based at, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Um, but we're working on it, trying to figure it out. Um, yeah, dude, but Irva is super dope. I love the guys there. It's two brothers, Henry and Patrick, and they do it all by themselves. They only grow for hash, so it's all hash
Oh
strains.
wow.
No IPM, even in veg. Nobody is allowed to go to their spot, kind of thing, because they just keep it that protected. And those are the things I like to see out here. Because like my personal operations, like people are always like, yeah, come see my spot. I'm like, absolutely not. You can try the rosin, but
Mhm. Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, there's bugs are a thing, and bugs can fuck you really hard, really fast. You know what I mean? So, um,
Yeah. I love hearing
sourcing
that.
from good, clean grows, and then I source it. I do all the washing, the pressing, um, help out a little bit with packaging, but that's about it. Then I go hit sales, so I'm doing like most of the sales and like community events and stuff like that. You know me.
Yeah, dude, you've been out there, especially everyone I've asked. I mean, everyone's had such a the guys are really chill, super humble, which
I
I love
appreciate
to
that.
hear. And just the cadence on kind of how you've been operating, I think, aligns with what I look like what I look for in people too. So when I saw you kind of doing your thing, popping up more on my feed, I was like, I'd love to talk to this guy. It seems
Oh
sick.
yeah,
Unfortunately, I'm not in Colorado, but we have this cool technology that we can just kind of talk to everybody all around the world and cannabis community. I mean, everyone's just real cool, man. Once you kind of open up on what you're about, everyone's been real open to being on the pod. So I appreciate you taking your time, dude, and getting on here.
absolutely, man. That's I can't be who I am without you.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No,
that's
I
kind of the way I
appreciate it.
say is like I'm blessed to be where I'm at and to have people that notice what I'm doing and supporting what I'm doing. Um, the only thing I try and do is be different. That's always been my motto. I think since I was a fucking kid, I didn't want to be like everybody else climbing in the trees. I wanted to learn how to ride a bike faster. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
uh,
dude.
just pave a different lane for yourself. You know what I mean?
Talking
Yeah.
about
So that
growing up, where you're in Colorado now, but you mentioned you were from the East Coast.
Yeah, so I'm originally from South Carolina, but my dad was in the Air Force. So
Nice.
we moved around all the time. He was constantly stationed at different bases. So majority of it was United States. Let's see, East Coast, Middle, West, let's see, West Coast, like uh North Dakota was where I spent a good long 4 years at. Got to experience Canada. Really dope. I love Canada. And then from North Dakota we went to Okinawa, Japan. So
Whoa.
yeah, huge drop, huge jump, like
How long were you there?
-40 to like fucking 120 degrees. So um it was crazy. So my dad was stationed over there. He became like an NCO club base commander type thing.
Wow.
And just like got to experience the finer things in life in Okinawa, golf courses, the nice clubs, without being wealthy or rich, because my dad didn't really make much money. When he got to that part, he started making a little bit more money and getting retirement and stuff. But then he had a heart attack.
Oh
So
man.
we did 8 years there. So I got to grow up pretty much there, 2001 to 2009.
Wow.
Yeah, so like we were leaving North Dakota the month after 9/11. So it was super
That was
crazy
probably wild.
flying,
Yeah.
flying from like the United States to a foreign country, but through the military chain of flying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like all locked down and definitely checking everybody and stuff like that. But Japan in itself was just a life-changing experience. I feel like that's where I call home now because it just has this pull on you. The people there are just like so nice. Everybody is so neighborly. It's like the 50s of the United States. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where everybody was looking out for their neighbor, sharing what they had. That's Japan for you. A lot of love for the people in the community. So I think that's kind of like where I stem from, and like what I try and create out here is this
Yeah.
sense of having a family, even if you don't have a family. Uh, and just hash, like we just always introduced me to people ever since I was fucking 15 years old is when I tried it for the first time.
Nice.
Uh,
Yeah, around the same for me.
yeah, not too early, but not
Not too
not
late.
too late. So yeah, sweating through high school, trying not to get drug tested because I went to a
Yep.
Christian high school, private Christian school. And that's where I met my wife, Summer. So Summer and I've been together 15 years. Um,
Now, where was this?
This was South Carolina. So,
Okay, word, word.
2009, I moved back to South Carolina. My dad got orders to leave Japan. He had a year left before he could retire. So, 21 years you can retire, and then you'll gain retirement benefits and stuff. And he was like, "Well, um, they gave him some options. I think it was like Guam, Germany, and Colorado." And he got
Yeah,
Colorado. So he stayed in Colorado
sick, dude.
Springs. And that's how I got to find Colorado. It's like came out here, saw it. I had already determined that like I was gonna go live with my granddad in South Carolina and
Hmm.
go to school because my thing is I was coming to the United States sophomore year of high school. So I didn't wanna
Okay.
make
What a
friends.
transition.
I didn't want to be like, yo, I'll only have 2 years of trying to build friendships, and then I won't have like lifelong friends. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Or if I went a year, then I would have been going into a junior year of high school. So it would have been, it's weird. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'll go ahead and go. My mom and dad are both from South Carolina, where I was going to school at. So I have cousins and stuff that I was able to like go to school with and have friends from the get go, and then work my way in. It was so funny because my uncle was like the star running back for the school I went to. It's
Hell
called
yeah.
Lawrence Manning Academy, and he told everybody that like I was Japanese. Did it pause?
Yeah, that's funny, dude. That's probably such a crazy transition going from Japan of all places and then like back to the USA at like your peak adolescence, you
Yeah, it
know?
was so crazy, man. Surfing to like uh duck hunting and deer hunting again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So over there, I mean, I know they're pretty locked down with anything. Did you ever experience or like smell cannabis in the air at all? Or was there a scene or you're kind of still young then?
So I was still young then. What I had came across was supposedly called purple kush, but being an adult now, and just the era that we were in, I'm pretty sure it was like spice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be sick. Well, that'd be cool if you could like bring it over there eventually once their kind of laws change. That'd be pretty
That's
sick, dude.
that's definitely the goal. Thailand doing it, kind of gets
Mhm.
us
Mhm.
into the Far East a little bit. They're kind of doing that, what I call a trial run. It kind of lets the other countries or states or whatever you want to say around them kind of see if it's a bad thing or not. Kind
Yeah.
of like California and Colorado for the United States.
Yeah.
Um, I think they're starting to talk about putting it on a medical ballot for a vote, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me. But
Yeah.
no, that would be dope, man. I think you grow some great weed over there, like California style weed.
Oh yeah, I mean the geography over there is so sick. The mountains they have and everything like that, I'm sure it would do extremely well.
Yeah, for sure.
Extremely well. That's awesome. So you come into Colorado, you're in Colorado Springs. When did you kind of start dabbling with cannabis and getting into the industry with that?
So, back in South Carolina, let's see, 2010, I popped my first bean ever with my granddad. So
Sick.
he popped some seeds and started growing, and he was kind of teaching me the ins and outs of that. At the time, we had like 60 acres back in SC. Didn't grow on all 60 acres, obviously, but there's like a little swamp that allowed us to get water naturally, so you didn't have to check on the plants and too much, stuff like that. So I gained a little bit of
Yeah.
experience there. Um, 2011, I graduated high school, and was smoking weed all the time, blasting, RSO and
Oh
BHO
yeah.
extraction was a thing heavily. So
Like
I was
turkey
like,
baster blasting with your homies with a
yeah,
fan and stuff like that.
yep.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I went to the local glass shop, Hetty store, and got one of those glass tubes and started
Yep.
just punching it full of weed that I was growing outdoor and just blasting. Dude, that was so fun, but it was such a nightmare because experiencing that and going through it and not having access to education, there's so
Yeah.
much BHO and ethanol that I've
Oh
consumed.
my
No
God,
doubt in
same.
my mind. The hot tie nails just sizzling, and it's not because of moisture. It's
It's just Tane just coming not even that, like, trying to make a makeshift, like, vacuum out of pots and the air
ugh.
compressors and just, like, not even understanding purging because you can't find anything on the internet yet, so me and my friends are just, like, blasting in a room with fans, like, trying to purge for several hours on, like, like, water bash, just whipping, and we still I mean, when I think about it and we talk about it, I'm like, "Dude, you know how much pain we are still, like, inhaling from all that?" We thought it was so clean and heady at the time. It's
Dude,
just
I remember we had like a pull behind trailer, like camper trailer, and me and my homies were like blasting in the trailer, not thinking
oh
about
yeah.
the fumes, just being high on life, young, high on fucking
Yep.
red hot tie nails of quote unquote RSO.
Yep.
And we're like purging it on the eye of the stove.
Yep. Yep.
And I hear a whistle. Boom, the fucking windows like blow out of the fucking trailer.
Oh man.
Fucking- Dude, my
Alcohol.
homie's
Yeah.
granddad comes pulling up like 30 minutes later, like, what the hell just
Oh
happened? And we're
yeah.
like, oh, we shot tannerite. We shot some some
Being from
explosive.
where you are, that's like not uncommon. So it's just like, oh, all right.
He was like, it blew out my trailer windows. We're like, yeah, it sure did. But I stopped BHO because of those reasons, getting blown up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and
Big
you see it even in
joints.
the news, like that was such a bad scene, I think, for cannabis when more and more operations are blowing up
Mm-hmm.
because of just mishandling of butane or even propane or whatever they're using at this point for their hydrocarbons.
So that was that, man. I just started researching then on like how to make concentrates without gas. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like
Yeah.
combustion in South Carolina got me in trouble 3 times. I went to jail 3 times for it. I was on my third
Really
strike. I had
brutal.
to pay attorney fees constantly.
Yeah. Yep.
Sell a little weed, pay attorney, that kind of thing. And
Oh yeah.
it
Very
just
common thing.
it turned into a nightmare with just smoking combustion wise. So I was like, man, I really want to get more into this concentrate thing because I noticed like you get way higher off of one or two inhales that the smell goes as soon as you blow it out.
Mhm.
Um so yeah, I started doing research, and then Frenchie Canoli was doing his bubble hash things, and
Nice.
um Kenny Wally was doing the ski mask days,
Yeah.
and I was just watching them, dude, and uh grew like 2 or 3 plants and decided I was gonna try and wash them, and didn't really pay attention to what those guys were doing. So I was just taking like pieces of whole plant and just dipping it in water really hard, like ice water, and pouring that
Yep.
through coffee filters and leaving it outside to air dry, and fucking pressing it in a clamp with a hair straightener and calling it a
How'd it
day.
go?
I mean, probably how you'd imagine, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
smoking some
Yeah.
contamination, maybe a coffee filter here or there, but I mean, those were the
Oh,
days that made us who we are now.
oh,
A
I
lot.
This episode is brought to you by Waddle, the world's fastest and easiest way to review and track your medical cannabis products. Waddle offers batch-specific reviews, so you'll know what to stash or trash. Exclusively available for Pennsylvania medical cannabis patients, Waddle helps you take the guesswork out of your cannabis journey and ensures transparency with verified product tracking. Download Waddle now on iOS or Android. That's WODL, and take control of your cannabis experience today.
think so.
A lot of hot blowouts, a lot of hair straighteners catching on fire because you destroy them on the clamp.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, I got
Plenty
kicked.
of yeah, I've had to like replace my sister's hair straightener so many times when I first discovered rosin.
Oh yeah, my wife got so pissed off one morning because she went to use her hair straightener and there was like hash on it and it got in her hair.
Uh, yep, yep.
Had to go get a haircut.
Oh man, yeah, that's a brutal one. Nice.
Yeah, that's when that was before like we all really knew too that like isopropyl alcohol could pretty
To
much
save
like
your
disintegrate it, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Um
yeah.
but
Even
yeah, ran
nowadays,
that up until like
ISO.
2015. So 2015 I came back out to Colorado. My little brother was living out here. So I did dual residency
Nice.
and got my badge and was able to gain more like commercial experience making bubble hash and
Yeah.
trimming and just like cannabis in general, multiple jobs. Would go back and forth because I was in college at the time too in South Carolina, so I just whenever
Oh
I kind
wow.
of wanted to gain experience or get some extra money, I just come out here and learn. uh Go back there. I finished college in 2019 and I moved out here to Colorado Springs and just kind of started badged permanently, like I want to be in
Yeah.
the industry. Uh, and my goal was always to be an extractor. I just didn't really know how to get to that point.
Mhm.
So I started out trimming for a dispensary. And basically in that job, without me knowing it, I was like a bud tender and a grower at the same time.
Wow, that's
So
sick.
there's a place down in the Springs, and basically they had like a storefront. You had to be buzzed to let in, but the doorbell is what you rang, and the doorbell was in each of the grow rooms, veg and 2 flower rooms, and then
Yeah.
in the very back room, which was a bathroom that kind of like got converted into a washroom. Like the toilets were taken out, the floors were sealed up and stuff, and then we would just make bubble in the OPC and then just test it and push it through the dispo. So people were able to just buy like, okay bubble hash. Uh, wasn't my best stuff, but we were still learning. And then that place got shut down for fucking criminal tax evasion. And then
Damn.
the owner had sold like mad weight to an undercover.
Mm,
So it
mm.
got the licenses taken down, pulled, and all that kind of stuff.
That'll do
And
it.
then just kind of moved into like more grow work, more dispensary management, because like I kind of liked being with people, like in front of people. Like I'm an introvert in a way, but it
Yeah.
allowed me to kind of get out of that and be okay with like talking to a bunch of people in a day and helping them out medically. And then my experience in terpenes and stuff like that allowed me to help properly advocate for patients that were new.
Hell yeah, dude.
Um, because in Colorado Springs, you have to have a med card to shop at the dispos. So
Yep.
it was like all med patients that, even if they weren't med patients, it was just like, hey, like I got some different aches and pains or something like that, and what's best for
Mhm.
that? Oops. So that was fun. That gave me like a lot of experience with vendors in Colorado as well. Because being a dispo manager, I got to meet a lot of people. And one
Yeah.
day, this company called Sovereign Labs.
Okay.
uh, Back in what 2020 now, I'd say, uh, gave me like my first commercial break. So he was like, "Hey, do you know how to make hash?" And at the time, I was like, "I do, but I don't." I'll just let's see what he's gonna teach me, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
he helped me learn a lot. Got to meet a good friend there, Nick Creticos. He's a good sales guy out here in Colorado. Um, and we just kind of ran it up at Sovereign, and then that guy was kind of embezzling money on the side, and it kind of put his business out too.
Yeah.
And then I went to Dialed In Gummies, and Dialed In Gummies was like a fun spot. I got to learn a lot there, learn about like how to create culture within a company.
Yeah.
It's easy to get people to do a job. Well, not necessarily, but creating a culture and a want to come to work and have like a
Yes.
family aspect is super hard. So that I feel like they taught me a lot in that way. And then I went to another company, which I won't say a name because I'm not trying to give them credit for anything they did. They're just bad people.
Yeah.
And eventually landed up at Good Trees, and Good Trees has been tight, man. I enjoy it.
That's sick, dude.
A lot of the pushback in a lot of these companies is like using steel to press the rosin, which is like my techniques that I use.
Mhm.
Um, have you heard about stainless steel press rosin?
No, let's walk us through it.
Hell yeah. So there's a thing called 316L surgical stainless steel. It's 25 microns. You can get different microns, but the one I use is 25 microns, just like press bags. And with that, it's like sheets. So it's a 18 by 18 sheet. What I do is I take my water hash and I brick it, and then I wrap the sheet around it and I press it that way. Why I do that is like 5 years ago, just experimenting with nylon pressing and stuff. Them being a plastic, it didn't sit right with me that I'm taking this thing rated for 350 degrees Fahrenheit, et cetera, et cetera, and I'm pressing it at 160 degrees Fahrenheit with up to 8 tons of pressure behind that.
Mhm.
These presses, they hit 400 psi, which, I'm not a fucking mathematician. Hey, um, when it boils down to it, they were burning. So I'd look at the nylon bags under a microscope, and there'd be like these little individual strands or squares in the microns that would be black. And
Really?
I had noticed like that when I'd
So
only
more on
smoked.
the outside though, because it's
Yeah,
not like it's from leaching through or like a blowout or anything. So it looks like singeing from the outside from the plates.
exactly. So steel, I just dove on into experimenting with that. I'd always used it for like mechanical separation, like
Mhm.
where you'd pack your nylon bag and uh you'd put rosin in it, and then you'd like set that on the plates and press it out with steel wrapped over it, and that would isolate terpenes and then retain THCA powder. So
Wow.
basically, if you like repress rosin, you can separate terpenes from the THCA, and it'll cause like powder to form. Kai, my dog, sorry.
No, you're
Um,
good, dude. Mine are the same way. They're being
hey,
actually good right now.
come here. Um, so yeah, just experimenting with the THCA, mechanical separation for terpenes and stuff. Hey, freshes.
Mhm. Yeah, she's just chilling, dude. That's the
Love it.
co-host. Yep.
Mine were, and then they got up and started barking at something outside.
Oh yeah, my other one's over there. He's chilling on the couch. He's being good though, which is nice. Yeah, so that's wild. But that like, I applaud you for thinking about that because even me being someone, so we won't get into it too deep, but I have dealt with this whole CHS conundrum that's been facing the cannabis industry. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm like super super particular on what I consume and how it's made. And I can only very rarely like dabble with something that's like maybe a black market or whatever. So, not even thinking about that, like the leaching of a nylon bag. And for people that don't know, I guess the best way to explain it is like picture a tea bag,
Hmm.
like that you put your tea in or your herbs that you're soaking. So that's what we're putting like flour in, and in some situations it would be like sift or a different type of hash. For listeners that aren't fully familiar with rosin and what that looks like. So I applaud you for coming up with that, man.
Yeah.
How long did that take? Like trial and error.
5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 5 years to lock it down because nylon has an elasticity. So when you press it hard and fast, like you see people doing
Mhm.
on the internet and stuff like that, it can expand a little bit and doesn't necessarily blow out. Whereas the steel is full tensile; it has no elasticity to it. So if you press it too hard or fast, you'll rip it. Instead of blowing out like traditionally, it'll balloon and then explode. The steel will just rip and it'll just let everything inside of it go. So you'll have rosin flow and then the hash will just spit out randomly. Um,
Wow.
so it's definitely hard to press with it. It's a learning curve for sure. That took me,
Yeah.
I'd say,
Yeah.
probably a solid 3 years of commercial pressing. I'm not talking
Wow.
about like 8 plants in a tent and trying that every 3 to 6 months. We're talking,
Yeah.
1 million grams a year is what it
Yeah.
took me to learn it. So with most people, uh, unless you pay attention, right? Like a lot of people, if you're so keen to what you're doing in the process, you'll be able to see your mistakes and then learn fast beyond that. Um, but we're talking about people in our learning curves, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
uh,
100%.
but yeah, dude, like it's awesome that you said something about CHS because I was diagnosed with cyclic vomiting syndrome when I was 5 years old.
Yep.
Um which is basically like, if you people don't know, if you don't know, it's anything basically like stress related. So positive or negative stress
Mhm.
causes my stomach to have a seizure rather than my body.
Yep.
A brain stomach disconnection is what I was diagnosed with. And when I was smoking weed, 15 years old plus, it worried me because I thought the weed was what was causing it at one point. Because I
Yeah.
had gone into remission for a few years from like 10 to 15 years old, started smoking weed, and I started throwing up again. And I was like, is it the weed? Is it cyclic vomiting syndrome? What's going on? And what I figured out was by quitting weed, I would still get sick, just not as often. But
Yep.
what I found out from my source is my source was spraying IPM in flour. And
Wow.
IPM and flour, depending on what you use, can leave trace residuals of mercury, arsenic,
Yep.
chromium, et cetera, and you
Yeah.
can actually make yourself sick. Like mercury poisoning is, throwing up,
Heavy
etc.
metal, everything. Yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, so that's like, I think truthfully that is where CHS comes from, is poor quality weed.
Yeah.
Um, Contaminated weed, whether it is from IPM regiments or dirty harvests or uh, poor washing techniques, because if you have dirty bags too, you can also have like mold growing in your wash bags. And if you're
Yep.
making rosin with those bags, you're contaminating it with, yeast, mold, salmonella, aspergillus, all the things that make you sick. So with me, that's one thing that I'm gonna start putting out some videos on cleaning, SOPs and techniques and
Yeah, dude.
everything. I'm not talking about just washing. I want to do like seed popping. Don't just use regular paper towels. you know um there's so much like different things, utilizing isopropyl alcohol, and also understanding that these things cost money. So uh take it into consideration when you're producing a product, whether it's for yourself or others, that it's upon you to follow uh protocols that keep people safe, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Um,
think that's a huge importance, especially where you are. I won't mention where I was before, but like I've seen some gnarly stuff in the Colorado market
oh
of
yeah,
just like how to remediate product and failed product and how what they're gonna do if one thing doesn't pass, put it into another one. Like it's just it's gnarly, and especially in other industries, like once you get into the big money companies as investors, like the care for the kind of goes out the window. And I think that's why
oh
we're
yeah,
dealing with a lot of more just like health things that could come with like guys were smoking something. Like we're dealing with combustion and molecules. So it's like obviously there's going to be some type of pushback, and we have to be as careful as possible with what we're putting into it, especially in
yeah,
flour, you
yeah.
know.
Our lungs are definitely vulnerable, and you can't just go get a new lung.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
So I just watched a thing, and you should watch it too. There's a guy, his name, he has the podcast Shaping Fire. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
So I forget his name's like Shane Lalos or something like that. But he had this guy called Dr. Ethan Russo, and they just came out with something on YouTube on CHS, and the doctor was kind of linking it. He thought his theory of like genetics, so it could be genetic. And then they were kind of running through like different theories of like terpenes, pesticides, the whole neem oil theory, and all of that. So it's really interesting um, to see, and I'll send that to you too because it's such a new thing. And I feel
I'll
like
absolutely take a listen
as
to that.
yeah, as the industry, we just kind of need to like get a hang of it. I don't think it's negative. I don't think it can be used negatively if we all just like get a hold of it and figure out what the deal is.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know?
it's understanding how to use things, right? Using
Yep.
it as necessary, not as an abundance.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you see a
That's sick.
lot
So
of
to
like, good.
no, go for it.
You see a lot of like commercial operations that preventatively spray things that they don't necessarily need to spray. Um, Especially in flowering stages and stuff like that. Like veg is one thing, up to date 21, up to date 14, I would say actually. But once you flip the plants to flower, I highly recommend no IPM. And if you get
Yep.
to a point where you have to use IPM, bring the harvest down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And take the L sometimes. But out here, you just see people trying to salvage, like you said, the craziest shit. And let's just CRC it. Oh, it didn't pass the first time. CRC it again and remediate it now, which is, if people don't know what remediation is in Colorado, it's basically chemotherapy for weed.
Yep.
It's put into drums that are not metal drums, but into drums like cardboard drums, and it's loaded into these machines that send like X-ray, like chemotherapy, radiation waves through it, to the point where if you stand next to them, don't quote me, but from what I remember, if you stand next to them for more than 15 minutes without a lead vest on, you can get sick. It's like
It's
we're
wild.
microwaving our weed to pass testing. That's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
The fact that's
No, it's
allowed,
yeah, it blows my mind.
but it's also that we're one of the only industries that aren't allowed to take losses and write it off on taxes.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like trying to function with one hand behind their back, and it's no excuse to cut corners and put out bad material. But
Not with this stuff, you know.
it's crazy. That's one thing that I'm excited for when we do have an opportunity to go federally legal one day,
Yeah.
is that companies will then be more likely less enticed to do shady shit that can cause harm to people.
Let's hope.
Luckily, black market individuals or legacy market, they don't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But commercial situations, which, ultimately at the end of the day, that's where we all want to be at, right? Not having to look over our shoulder to operate in something.
I think so. I mean, even in PA, like certain people can't even come on the podcast in the medical market because the DOH is so strict. They can get like penalized and for like false marketing and stuff like that. So it's weird on how we have to operate here.
Yeah,
And I'm just
it
like,
limits so much.
it's like over what? Like it's cannabis and people are buying it as their medicine. I think they have a right to know like who's working on it, where it's coming from, what practices are being used, and that's my whole goal. At least for the East Coast stuff, because it's so strict right now. Phasing back into good trees, man. What do you guys? So you're specifically picking strains for washing. How'd that go? Because it's kind of new, the strain selection and people creating their just phenos for washing. I feel like.
Yeah, so that's one of my main jobs in my career is to hunt, to hunt phenos that are washers. Usually how I do that for people who don't know is, well, either there's many ways, right? There's
Hmm.
buying seed packs where a breeder took, certain genetics and crossed them by taking pollen and pollinating a female plant, getting seeds from that, uh, 12 seeds a pack kind of thing and sell them on the internet. There's breeders that are known for creating hash genetics, we'll say. Oni Seed Co., Three's Genetics Reserve, Mile High Dave has some. Let's see. There's a couple of different ones that we know that we've heard of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what I do is I'll either find plants that I like, create my own, and then hunt those seeds, or buy seeds usually, and then
Mhm.
sometimes utilize those genetics to make more. But as we pop those seeds, get them into flower stages, I can go through and touch it with my fingers in a glove. Usually, I put on a black glove, do the
Mhm.
finger test,
Yep.
see if it's sandy, see if it's tacky. Another thing
Stringer
is,
test.
yeah, the other test is jar washing it, because even if it's sticky, tacky, sandy, shows trikes on your gloves, sometimes those trichome heads might not make it through the water. uh, they'll bust. Their trichome head thickness isn't thick enough to withstand the agitation or the pressure from the water, um, all the way to just not to actually being a water soluble head. You know.
Yeah. So what
um,
do you think goes into that? Do you think it's the aging of the trichomes when you took it down and like the degradation it's already in, or just the strain
100%. Yeah.
specific, like just the DNA on it?
I think it's genetics. Genetics obviously play a part, because you can take an apple fritter pheno one and it not wash well, and then you can take a apple fritter pheno 3 or so,
Yeah.
and it hits right.
Yeah.
Just because there's different expressions of genetics in it, um, of that phenotype. There's also uh, growing stages, right? Like if you take it
Hmm.
down too soon, the trichome heads might be too thin. If you take it down a little later, they might be too thick, so you might get a good wash but not a good press back,
I
because
gotcha.
oxidization and oil leach has happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a whole thing. Usually when you take them longer, you get more of a yield, but not as much of a press back yield.
Yeah.
A bigger yield to water hash, but not as much oil return. And then, of course, you take plants longer, you get more ambered rosin versus white
Hmm.
rosin at day 49.
Oh, okay. So I didn't even think about that. The color of the heads translating to the
Yeah.
color of the rosins. I mean, other than like the purples, you know, coming through, like I think it's so sick when you see like the purple water, and
Yeah,
it's
the
just pressed.
anthocyanin leach, for
Yeah,
sure.
I always just stink at saying the word, dude. So I never say it, but in my head I see it. Um, but it's
Yeah, it's
so
green.
nice when you see it. Like I remember when I first saw like my first like batch of either like a purple or almost like a red wine, like a light red wine look, and I was just like, this is alchemy. Like this is just nuts. And then you just become obsessed,
Yeah,
with every different pheno and plant you see. You're just like, what is this gonna look like? It's so wild to have four plants and they're all gonna have different
dude,
things
I get
come out.
depressed if I don't wash something in a week. Like if I go
Yeah.
in a week without extracting, I'm like, fuck,
Oh
dude.
man, that's sick. I hope to get there one day. PA's on its way, man. I've
Hell
been out
yeah.
of a lab for a while, but it's always in my blood.
Dude,
Um,
it's amazing. There's nothing better than smelling like cold water hit the bags and the hash, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Like that's my addiction is when I go to pull the bags and I smell the fucking 73U bag and the cold water and the way the terpenes mix and then like rotate back up the bag at you as you're spraying it. It's like
Mhm,
any
mhm.
day. Any
Yep.
day.
Just scooping it too, and just
Oh,
seeing that
scooping is
texture and how
fun.
the sand is just like, yeah, it's so
People
sick.
scoop in ways though that just like drive me insane, dude. Like
Yeah,
when they chop it or they stick it in there and like constantly scoop it and then get the scoop out. It's like you
makes
just
you.
smash so much, dude.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
and you can't see it. So that's the thing is like in my brain, I operate in an Ant Man mentality. You know,
Yep,
like
yep.
I'm looking at water balloons at the bottom of this bag. You know, these
Mhm.
little trichome heads are water balloons, and if I smash them now, when I get them to the press, I can't smash them. You know, so
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it'll make everything taste good. But I'm basically flavoring the water that I'm washing in if I
yeah.
smash the stuff.
Wow.
Um, so that's what I like to think of as like water hash are like little water balloons and then little stems, little sticks that we tie the water balloons to, and those are what we pretty much extract to ultimately press. And the goal is to get the more water balloons than sticks,
Yep.
but it happens, you know.
It does happen. It does happen. What strains are you guys working with over there that you're really happy and stoked to be working with? Anything new,
Dude,
or did you bring any cultivars you worked with in the past over?
there's some that I've done. Wedding pie, so I've worked with that one quite a bit. It's a grape pie and wedding cake.
Nice,
It's
nice.
super dummy. There's nothing flavor wise on the market like it. It's like burnt rubber cake and glue, like Elmer's glue.
Yep.
Uh, and the texture is like so sticky. So it's like the
Oh,
oiliest rosin, but it's so sticky. So like you put your dab tool in it, you don't get a clean dab tool every time. It's like that greasy texture. My
damn.
favorite thing that I've done, I mean, honestly, I said it to date, like since I've started extracting in 2012, is biscotti chunks grown by Irva. That has been dope. It's a three genetics reserve genetic. Um, it's what is it? Fatso to the biscotti times biscotti Sunday.
Damn.
So it's got like that really nice legend OG in it. Like
Yeah.
I barely get any garlic or any GMO at all. There's a few people that have dabbed it, and I'm talking about probably 3 out of 300 people
Yeah.
um that have said they taste GMO in it, and we all like
Really.
look at them and like, what the fuck is wrong with your taste buds, dude? But maybe they have a different palate than we do. But that one's been really tight, dude. It tastes like sweet OG like Sunday terps, like sherb with some OG.
That's nice.
Uh,
That's nice.
Other than that, there's Giotto. So Giotto is Kim 91. You know the old school Kim 91 times jet
Mhm.
fuel OG, and
Wow.
it's literally Parmesan cheese in the jar. Like when you smell it, one of my good friends he quoted it. It's like baby diapers in a Glad trash bag. What I get is like feet and cheese, but when you smoke it, you get like OG Kush, like jet fuel.
Damn.
But yeah,
The
the baby diaper trash bag terp. I was like, that's fire, dude.
baby diaper trashy terps, dude. That's sick.
He was like, dude, it smells clean, but like shit.
Hell yeah. Yeah,
But
like
yeah,
a
we've got 9 strains that I've done because I just started processing like for commercial production. We were playing around with pheno hunting over the last year, but
hell yeah.
actually putting stuff on the market, we hit fuck beginning of November, October. No, October. Yeah, it's like middle of October 15th, I'd say. Right around 15th through Halloween, we started dropping a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, 9 cultivars on the market. I brought over some black ice that I've been running. It's Third Coast Genetics Mac Back Cross times Oreos.
Nice.
Super nice terps. It tastes like the fun dipstick.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
So like no candy on it, just a stick.
Yeah. That's
I
sick,
fucked
dude.
with it, dude. If I would have called it, if I could have named it, I would have told him to call it Fun Dip,
Yeah.
like Fun Dip
Yeah.
Stick.
Yeah, that
That
would
would
have
have
been
been fun.
sick.
But yeah, papaya juice is one that we have. You know, GMO times papaya times papaya.
Gotta
That
have a
one's been fun.
papaya.
The
I
thing
don't
is,
think
you
you
don't
can have
taste
some
any
rosin
papaya
without
on
the
this.
papaya. Yeah.
All
Nice.
I get is like a watery GMO. It's like
Wow.
what I wanted to call it was less offensive GMO.
I like that.
Because it's
I like
calmed
that.
down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. Sometimes that
strawberry pie
GMO
was a good one.
can just get funky, dude.
God,
Like,
dude, GMO is crazy. I can smoke it, but not for long.
yeah. It's one
Like,
of those things for me too. Same with like a jelly bean type high limonene like that. Like
yeah,
just those high funky strains. I'm just like, all right, I'll indulge a little bit, but that's not gonna be my main smoke.
the
Personally.
limonene terps burn my throat, bro. Limonene's a airway irritant,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's like I don't know. I've
Yeah.
had so many dabs lately that are just so heavy from other
Ugh.
extractors and limonene, and they'll be like, "Yo, try this out," and they're so excited, and I'll dab it, and I'm like making a face or some shit, and they're like,
Yeah.
"What?" Like
I'm
I'm
just
like,
like,
"The hash
no.
isn't bad, bro, but fuck, I don't want
Limonene.
that."
Yeah.
Like chopped cherry has been haunting me.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
even have it. I tried to mix Oreos with chopped cherry to calm it down, and it kind of
And it
helped.
yeah. It's just potent.
It
It
made it
just
like earthy.
sticks. It just sticks. It's a taste that just stays there, you know. And
Facts.
that's
But
sick.
yeah, strawberry pie is another one. I've really been enjoying that one. It's
That
like
sounds
old
delicious.
school strawberry cough terps, like 2012 terps.
Oh, nice, man.
Super nice.
Yeah, that's
Tastes like
sick.
a
And
pie crust.
you guys, so you're doing live rosin, are you doing any like bubble hash or like water hash or anything like that?
I haven't necessarily played with the water hash just because where I'm currently operating out of, I don't have a cold room.
Yeah,
So I'm operating at room temp, but I'm able to get bigger yields than most that have a you know cold room. I
yeah,
use the low temp skid, so I have a water chiller chilling my 300-gallon tank, and
I
then
got you.
I have a RO ice machine that I just add the ice to that tank, and then I keep the
Hmm.
water at like 32, 33, and then I just do iceless washes and trying to maintain my spray hose is connected to the chiller as well, or to the pump
Nice.
as tank as well, so I have the ability, as long as I do it quick enough, it's not degrading the hash or losing yield.
Yeah,
Still hitting 6% on most that are supposed to hit 6%.
nice,
That's
nice.
been tight. Um, but yeah, dude, it's been a vibe. Kind of just doing in a state of the art factory. Lab has been dope.
Yeah,
Um, the place
definitely a
where I
big
operate out
upgrade,
of.
you
Yeah,
know.
so Good Trees operates underneath Next One. You remember Next One Labs?
I do.
So I operate underneath their license. So we
Hmm.
basically had a room that we created that is just for hashing. Uh, and then I work
Hell
the
yeah.
weekends. So I work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when nobody's there. So it's dope, dude. Just fucking turn the speakers up and sync them
Yeah,
all and just
yeah.
fucking bump Dolph all day.
That's fucking sick. That's fucking sick, dude.
Yeah, if you ever come out, you'll have to check out the lab, dude. It's dope.
I would
Um,
love to. I'm definitely coming out in February for my annual snowboard trip.
yeah,
Um, and I want to come out a day or two before I head into Keystone, just to see my old homies and new homies. I think it'd be really sick to like do a dinner, um, and chill and just
that'll be
fucking
vibes.
kick it. You know what I mean? Meet
Yeah,
people face to face. You know. So
100%.
you know my dude Debo. I haven't seen Debo in a couple years, so
Bro,
it'd be nice to
Debo's a
see
homie.
him. Yeah, man, that's my dude. I'm gonna get him in on some segments, and we're gonna start doing some good stuff.
Let's
Um,
go.
so I'm excited. I'm excited for that. But yeah, I would love it. I'd love to chill with the crew, meet everybody, see some shit. That would be
Hell yeah.
excellent.
Yeah,
That'd be
Debo's
excellent.
been putting in some work for us at Good Trees, trying to get us in over there at Verde. Fucking nothing
Nice.
but love for him, dude, for real.
Yeah, yeah. Houdini will do it if he can. The magic will happen. Put it that
Yeah,
way.
man.
I know the
I
man can
already
do
know.
crazy things, so they don't call him the Houdini for nothing.
He's got us working with him on what we need to do. I'm like, you tell me what to do, boss, and I'll do it.
Yeah, Yeah,
Nah,
that's
just trying to
sick,
get the
man.
rosin out a little bit more into more dispos, more hands, and spread the education on steel pressed rosin versus nylon pressed rosin. And um,
Yeah,
never will I ever say it's better. It's just different, you know.
yeah.
And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. You know, pressing
Oh,
through plastic versus pressing through steel. Steel doesn't melt.
yeah. I think just the whole solventless way of life makes more sense than anything else. Um, but that's for a whole nother episode, you
Hey,
know?
absolutely.
I think before we leave, man, if we have some heads that are like just getting into rosin, right? So we've all been there. We're building a little press, little studio. What are some recommendations, or maybe some? Do you have any brands you recommend, or like how should people get started in this?
Getting started in rosin, I would say talk to low temp. You know,
Yeah,
you definitely have the ability to grow into something, um, but also there's the ability to pick up bad habits along the way. Uh, so using cheaper materials, for example, it's not going to take care of you in the end run. So investing properly, investing time into learning, investing money into equipment. I think that's all the best way. We all got started in a 5 gallon bucket with bags, and that's a great way to get started and learn. Kind of how hash reacts. I definitely recommend that. Press wise, to get started, I would say start with a dab press if you don't have the money for a low temp. But look into working your way into something like a low temp setup. Maybe it doesn't have to be an osprey. You can hand paddle at home. I use brute trash cans, and hand paddle in those with a bulk. You know, what am I saying? Valve on it with a bulkhead and drain into my rosin evolution bags, and
mhm,
uh,
mhm.
I would say one of the biggest things is try and do it when you can afford a freeze dryer. Just because microplaning, depending on where you're at, and air drying, you can contaminate hash, and doing it at home, you don't really have the and newly doing it, you don't have the experience to understand what's bad and what's not,
Yeah,
because out there on the industry and in the market and on social media and the internet, very rarely do people show you what bad is in
mhm,
hash. It's
mhm.
always good. It's never anything bad. There's a couple of times on my Instagram where I posted like blowouts and like dirty hash bags, what all these things look like, what molded hash looks like, because it doesn't show like it does on bread. When hash molds, it's not necessarily fuzzy all the time,
Yeah.
and when it goes bad because there's too much moisture content. So that's the other thing, right? Is it's not good to smoke water vapor. So just being careful about that. So I would say, focus on proper techniques. Watch Frenchy Cannoli's ways of doing things.
Hell yeah.
Um, I don't do a whole lot of microplaning, honestly, but I will be doing some classes soon and posting some educational videos for people to see kind of how to do different techniques from different um, you know grades of money financing it, I guess you can say,
Yeah,
from the beginning startup to what a commercial lab looks like. I mean, me personally, I invested around 6 grand into my home lab, and that's got it where I can make great hash.
yeah,
Freeze dryers tight, harvest rights great, but low temp definitely helped me with those things. So yeah, reach out to the hash makers around you and ask questions, and 9 times out of 10 will answer your question with no issue.
yeah, yeah. And everyone listening, how can they follow your journey, my man? What are your socials?
Yeah, so I have at MikeyDabSit on Instagram and other social media platforms, and then my content page is at Mikey Washes It, because currently, Instagram and a couple of platforms don't allow cannabis.
Yep, yep.
So you have to be careful. So Mikey Dabs It is what I call my communication page, because I've had that for so long that I don't get sent to like message requests when I hit people up. Whereas Mikey Washes It is where you go to see the hash and take place.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Part of the end of it, man, it's all about giving gratitude. Any
Yeah.
homies you want to give a shout out to along your journey?
Oh man, so many. I couldn't even start. Fuck. Of course, Frenchy Cannoli, RIP. That's who gave me the inspiration to get started.
Mm-hmm.
One of my good friends, Kenny Wally at Single Source, Colorado, on Instagram, at Kenny Wally on Instagram too. Uh, Really, any questions I've had, he's kind of been there for me. An extractor I definitely look up to. Started in the kitchen, so he does it all very clean. He knows how to keep a lab spotless. That's what
Hell
I look for when I look at extractors. Is can I eat off your floor?
yeah.
Um, Straight up, dude. Like hair nets, beard nets, the whole nine works. That's what we're getting into.
Yeah.
Uh, the goal for legal federalization is a thing, and with that requires Department of Ag, Department of Sanitation, all of this. So we'll have to think of it as being in a restaurant, or even more tight than that, like being in a doctor's office.
Dude,
um,
I cringe when I see people like going through gardens and touching buds with their raw hands without any beard stuff. I'm just like, oh my God, dude,
yeah.
stop it. Stop it. Why are you doing that? Stop playing with the nugs. You know? Yeah. Yeah.
That part. But yeah, another good extractor I'd say shout out to is Tim at Soy Cubano. Really doing his thing, showing out for the community and keeping it consistent since day one. So that's the thing, bro. A1 since day one. Don't falter. Don't put money over people, and take care of the plant first.
Hell yeah, dude. That's sick. Mikey, man, I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, appreciate you, bro. For real. Thanks for having me, and let's definitely get up together and